I have. All my needs are met. I feel rooted. I am connected to my body. I have the right to be here. I feel safe and secure. I have. All my needs are met. I feel rooted. I am connected to my body. I have the right to be here. I feel safe and secure. I have. All my needs are met. I feel rooted. I am connected to my body. I have the right to be here. I feel safe and secure. Welcome to the disciplined world of Saturn. Saturn rules over Capricorn. Saturn remains in our zodiac signs for 2 to 3 years. In Saturn, we experience structure, we follow the law, we know restrictions and discipline, we practice responsibility, we hold our obligations, and value ambitions. Saturn brings meaning and structure to our lives. Saturn reminds us of restrictions that affect matter and time. Saturn asks of our commitment and responsibility and our boundaries. We need to know and understand our limitations and practice self-control when Saturn is present. Saturn affects history, traditions, and old age. Saturn brings patience through trials. Saturn helps us overcome so that we can connect and triumph. Saturn brings stability, reliability, perseverance, and diligence. However, Saturn is a stern ruler. Saturn practices stern justice. Under Saturn, if you have any Capricorns in your life, you understand the rulership of Saturn. Saturn is that ruler that is known for being the stern father. Saturn is the stern father figure. Saturn, in more ways than one, is in our lives to help us alleviate the distractions of the other energies. For example, you have the planets and you remove Saturn. We would find ourselves over emotional under the moon, egotistical under the sun, overindulging under Venus, warring and pillaging under Mars, wasting under Jupiter. It is Saturn that brings us back to our center and helps us to understand without responsibility and discipline, chaos ensues. Everything falls apart. Just as we party, we must work. Just as we play, we must sleep. Saturn is like the divider of the day and the night, helping us understand there is a time for every single thing in our lives. Saturn, like I said before, is a stern ruler. Saturn rules over our ambitions and our careers. Saturn is that ruler that will punish us when we stray away from our life's lessons. You will suffer under Saturn. Saturn is very practical and conservative. When you think of your politicians, when you think of well-structured professional careers such as the law, the medical industry, like for example accountancy, Saturn rules over such professions because there's high discipline. You cannot veer left or right under those strict professional careers. You have to stay centered and disciplined, or else there's a price to pay. You will be punished. However, when lessons are learned under Saturn's ruling, you are rewarded beyond your means. Like Saturn, like I said, is that overprotective Papa Bear, and we all know why Papa Bear protects Baby Bear so much, because Papa Bear has lived. Saturn has lived. Saturn is that old king that has lived many dynasties. Saturn has seen them come and Saturn has seen them go. And Saturn is not impressed. Saturn sits on his throne just looking at time changing, watching phases come in and out, watching minds change left to right. And Saturn understands that the centered will be reached no matter what side is winning at the moment. My reason for saying that is, if you look in history, you will see phases that everyone goes through. We went through in America, we went through from the 1929 or 28 until the mid to late 40s, our warring Martian period. And then we went through our revolutionary period. And then we balanced back to center. That's the whole time when we were going through our Martian period of the stock market crash, World War I, World War II, and then we entered our revolutionary period. Saturn was still sitting on his throne, watching, examining the phases that reality was going through. And in the end, we center back. And even right now in our modern day, we're going through we're about to enter for the next 7 years Uranus in Taurus direct. But we are also going through a Mercurian phase of communication. Technology is changing around us. Our form of communication is changing around us. And Saturn is still sitting there watching. As long as we practice these changes with discipline, Saturn will not have to show itself to either reward or punish or discipline those who are not following the rules. Now, Saturn is, negatively speaking, Saturn is a very selfish energy. It's stingy, in other words. Saturn does not share when it's experiencing its negativity. Under the negative energy of Saturn, you will find yourself like hoarding. In other words, you will hoard so much that you don't even know what to do with half of what you're hoarding, but you still keep hoarding. You become stingy with yourself, with your energy, with your thoughts, with your emotions, with your love, with your materialistic possessions, whatever it is that you have. You become stingy with it and you hoard more and more of it. That's the negative side of Saturn. Because remember, as disciplined as we are, when we are not practicing such disciplines, chaos ensues, right? However, when Saturn balances itself, as Saturn balances itself back from its negative, undisciplined side back to its neutral grounds, Saturn will set obstacles in your way. Saturn will throw setbacks at you. Saturn will cause you to suffer. You will feel anguish and disappointed when you're transversing back from the negative back to the neutral grounds of Saturn, or when you're not learning the lesson that Saturn wishes for you to learn. Under Saturn, we are hard-working beings. I'm trying to think of an empire. I can think of China, but I can't think of the dynasty. that I could pinpoint like the strong, stern father figure that takes no lip from anyone. That's pretty much what I can think of right now when I'm thinking of like a nation that was under stern regulations, stern that was developing under stern foundations. I can only think of China. I can think of other nations, but they veered. They kind of became lenient. China is that one country that pretty much stayed in its Saturnian energy. Like, it's stern. Like, there's no changing China's mind. Like, it is what it is. This is who we are, and that's it. There's no going left or right. That's what I think of when I think of Saturn. As far as Capricorn or any other sign in Saturn, personally, I would say Saturn is like school. When you're in Saturn for those 2 to 3 year periods, you're in school. Depending on who you are, you're either in grade school, you're in college, you're in grad school, or you're in post-grad. One or the other. You are going through beginner's lessons, intermediate lessons, or expert lessons, and you're getting ready to graduate. Now, depending on how hard you've studied, depending on how dedicated you've been to your lessons in learning them and growing from them, that will derive whether or not you're rewarded or punished from Saturn. Now, a reward from Saturn is filled with abundance. Like, remember, Saturn affects your career. Your career affects your monetary earnings, your income. So when you learn that lesson from Saturn, if you were going for a career, for example, that pays $60,000 an hour a year, Saturn will reward you with the same career. However, you will be paid double or triple with less restrictions to the self, because you've learned that lesson. This is what I've learned when I've been studying the planets and their correlations with ourselves. You'll see other people succeed at such rates. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who succeeds has learned their lessons. We're not children. We know that some people lie, cheat, steal, do whatever they need to do to reach a level in their lives. However, if you've ever paid attention, you will always notice that never lasts. He or she who lies, steals, or cheats to achieve a goal, it's always short-lived. And there always needs to be, more lying, more cheating, more stealing to achieve the same short-term results. What I'm saying is, under Saturn, when you learn that life lesson, the reward is so much more greater than you can ever imagine. You are rewarded, okay? Whatever your deep dreams and deep intuitive wants and needs of this life experience of yours. For example, let's say you're someone who you want to have an abundance of wealth. You want to travel the world. You want to help others or not. Whatever it is that you want. Whatever it is that you want. Like, let's stick to those three things. Let's say you want an abundance of wealth. You want to travel the world, and you want to help people. Those wants correlate with your lesson, if that makes sense. That which you want correlates with the lessons that you need to learn. Once you learn those lessons, your wants will be fulfilled. For example, you want an abundance of money. Maybe your lesson is to know what it was like to not have. Or maybe your lesson is to put you in a situation or a place where you help someone who don't have. You want to travel the world. Maybe your lesson is to help or be in a situation where travel is not something that you can achieve. Or maybe it's to put you into connection with someone who they themselves want to travel. And you might need to open your home, open your finances, open your life to such a person. Let's say you want to help others, right? If you want to help others, your lesson might be in receiving help. Because a lot of the time, this relationship that we have is with ourselves and with others is like one-sided, where we want something but we don't know why we want that thing. You might want to help others because deep inside you need the help. You need to open yourself. Maybe you receiving help from someone is actually allowing them to help you. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I think of when I think of the lessons of Saturn. We want these things, but we don't know why we want these things. And therefore, if we dig deep within ourselves, we'll figure out why we want these things. And to tell you the truth, most of the time it's not superficial. You'll think of it like it's superficial, but it's depending on what it is. Like I said before, I'm not going to say like every want or need that you have is like concrete, like spiritual. You might just want a Gucci handbag because you want to walk around town looking luxurious. That's different than wanting to travel the world. There could be a calling out in the world that your vibration is reacting to, so it's initiating that want to travel, if that makes sense. So that is Saturn in a nutshell. Hopefully, I cut my ranting down to a limit and everything makes sense. I'm working on, the information and making sure it all makes sense. We are going to move to Uranus, and we are going into the beautiful energy of Aquarius.